I feel like it's very topical these days, especially in the last few weeks, to be talking about ban lists. And across card games in general, it's very topical to Magic, it's very topical to Pokemon, it's very topical to Yu Gi Oh! Especially. And of course, for us in domain format, in our private little corner with our growing Discord, we always have people that come in and they will talk about that they think this card should be banned or that card should be banned. And we joke and we tap the sign with scientific the scientific theory post or whatever, the copy pasta that we have, and we joke about like nothing needs to be banned. And for the most part, um, truly, I believe that as of now, nothing really needs to be banned. But for the sake of topical conversation, what would a domain format ban list be like? And so there's a couple different ways to explore that. There is, of course, the standard way in which Yu-Gi-Oh does their ban lists, which would not apply to domain because we're already playing a singleton format of like rules where you can only run one copy of each card with no exceptions, right? So if that's the case, then basically it comes down to, is a card forbidden or is it legal? That would really be the only way to do a standard Yu-Gi-Oh list. Um, and then there is other options past that of how other games handle their ban lists. There is speed duels, which in a way sort of works, right? This goes in the direction of choice restriction. Choice restriction is one of my favorite ways that I think games handle their ban lists. In the case of how Speed Duels does it, there's Limit 1, Limit 2, and Limit 3. In Limit 1, there's a list of cards that are in Limit 1, and you can pick one of them to be in your deck, but you cannot run any of the others that are on that list. In Limit 2, you can run two of those cards, and in Limit 3, you can run three of those cards. And that is your choice on how you do it. It's a choice restriction. Um, I like how this is done and how I think this would be good to be implemented potentially if Domain did eventually down the line have to consider a ban list. And how would that even be considered in the first place? It seems like most games have a like rules committee of sorts, right? For Magic, the game that I am most familiar with other than Yu-Gi-Oh! And Vanguard, um, in Magic, it is a rules committee for like Commander, and there is also a committee for the other formats of Magic that they test their cards, they play test the concept of restricting or banning a card, and then they make a verdict whether or not the card is healthy for the game with a various number of reasons as to why they do this, right? Um, if Domain was to have a ban list, it would make sense that Domain Format would have some kind of a rules committee, judges, the people that created it, a circle of people they trust, right? That they can come together and efficiently and professionally decide the fate of whether a card is good, healthy for the game. Currently, I still believe that nothing needs to be banned in domain format because nothing has truly broken or solved, quote unquote, the format, right? And of course, every time a new card comes out, we're going to have the same conversation, and it's okay to repeat these conversations, and we'll joke about it as we have before about nothing needs to be banned, tap the sign, etc. But with a rules committee in place, that would be where the decisions can be made. And what would deem a card not fit for the format? Again, I come to Magic, where in Magic's case, for Commander, which is the most adjacent to domain format, in my opinion, then there is a way to kind of see how it's done and can reflect on how it's done to know how to do it better, if that makes sense. Because Commander's infamous for not having a ban in a long time now, even though I think there are a number of cards people believe should be banned or done something to, and that hasn't been done, right? So, how it's done in Commander is there's a rules committee, as I mentioned, and they will sit down and they'll talk about what a card is doing. Is it too powerful in terms of it too easily generates some kind of infinite loop? Does it cause a problem in terms of it's fine and competitive, but really oppressive and casual? That kind of thing. Is it too powerful even for competitive? Does it warp competitive Commander? Is it unfun? The biggest one often is it unfun to play against? And that is where I think we could see a vision of sorts about what it could be like if domain format had a ban list. Is it unfun, right? Because domain, as we talked about in our previous video, it is not inherently casual. It's casual friendly, and that it does have a number of people that want to build at a competitive level as much as possible for this format, right? And play those higher powered games. They want powerful boards, they want powerful opponents, they want a strong, fun back and forth. And that is where a lot of people find fun in this game. Finding a way to break the board with a powerful board and seeing the back and forth of all these different combos going off in a game, right? And of course, with the idea of a card being deemed unfun, is that the direction that domain format would head into for a ban list? That's tricky, right? Because that goes into the direction of if the card is deemed unfun and banned, then inherently your format is going to be looked at as casual, which is not the intent of domain. It's casual friendly, but not inherently casual, right? So, unfun cards kind of have to exist in terms of what a person would deem unfun, right? Because, like, if you look at how Vanguard does their ban lists, they have choice restrictions where they'll restrict certain cards with each other, and then they'll just outright limit a card to one or ban a card, etc., depending on what it's doing. And in Vanguard's case, normally it's because the card is doing something extremely oppressive. Or the cards together do some kind of degenerate loop that the game really cannot handle, and it's unhealthy for the game. I look more in the direction of not necessarily unfun, but cards that could be deemed unhealthy, right? A card that I can think of that does feel like an example of something that would fit the criteria of like a rules committee deeming a card unhealthy could potentially be something like Totally Awesome, right? A card that is inherently powerful, that in domain is recurring all the time, right? And there is a powerful loop at play here that could be very difficult to break. Another card that I feel like also kind of fits this criteria would be like Sprite, what's it? Sprite, Elf. Is that the one that reanimates a card every turn? Like that also feels kind of a bit degenerate in the instance of four players at a table. But even then, they're not like so broken, right, that I sit here and I'm like, these are the cards that need to be banned. But in the perspective of a rules committee that is looking at unhealthy cards, they could be suspect and be put on a list, like a watch list, right? So that's something to consider. Really, it's just like, so far, nothing is needed to be banned, right? And of course, there are people that want certain things banned because of various reasons. They don't enjoy that matchup. They don't like what it does in the game. They did not have fun, etc. But from a grander perspective of overall watching the entire game, right? Excuse me. Goodness. Um, Nothing is needed to be banned. And from that bigger perspective, is anything warranting being watched for being degenerate or unhealthy in the game versus unfun? Because unfun is where you're going to start swaying the format into being deemed casual and not competitive, right? So the idea is to look at degenerate, unhealthy cards versus unfun cards. What do you think should be banned if Domain Format ever did have a ban list that wasn't just a blank sheet of paper? I would love to hear your thoughts down below about cards you find unhealthy for Domain, right? Things that you've experienced in a game that were crazy and it's gotta go, right? And if it did go, would the game be better? Or is it just more of a personal bias? I would love to hear your thoughts down below. Leave a like as well and comment all your thoughts down below and subscribe if you haven't yet. We're trying to near 500 subs, which would be awesome to hit. And perhaps I will try to come up with some kind of giveaway at 500 subs. That's what I'm thinking. Would be fun to do. I haven't quite got there yet, but as we near it, I'll continue to plan for the said giveaway. And as a result, more importantly, I appreciate your time watching these videos. So that'll be all for today. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.